Thank you, Leslie, and thank you, EMTEch, for this opportunity. I had a small clip that I wanted to share at the end of the talk, but in the interest of waking everyone up and engaging everyone, I thought we'll play that first. So could we have the audiovisual, please?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome CEO Google, Sundar Pichai.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining today. We have scaled up our infrastructure a lot, and we had primarily built it for use by Google for our services to serve our users. But we are at a point where we are opening it up so that every business can build what's next. And we want this to work for all kinds of businesses, whether you're a large business like Snapchat or Spotify, or a small business or a business of any size in between. We don't think of this as technology just for Silicon Valley. We want this to be technology for every developer and every business, no matter what size or location. For example, in India, an up-and-coming CGI animation studio in Mumbai, Assemblage, it used the Google Cloud Platform to work on the recent animated movie, Norm of the North. It shows that you no longer need to be a Google software engineer to get access to Google infrastructure.
Thank you. Thank you. So when I was asked to participate at today's event, my first thoughts were, what am I going to tell an audience full of technologists, innovators, change makers, and leaders about the power of technology? It was a tough question. Whilst I've been here the whole day listening to all the discussions on the innovation and the future of technology, I thought I'll speak, and I'm technically not competent to comment on any of that, I thought I'll speak less about the power of technology and more about the beauty of technology. I'm as excited and optimistic about how innovation can, will, and is changing the way we all do what we do. So what is it that we do? We use technology to tell inspiring and powerful stories. We use math, science, and code to create beautiful worlds, and we use storytelling and art to bring them to life. And that is the beauty of technology. Now, before I jump into animation, visual effects, and the power of technology, I thought I'd quickly touch upon three broad macro thematics which are affecting us all, and how technology plays a key role in each of these. So the first one is the power of globalization. Now, the advent of modern trade, politics, and media has set the premise for globalization. Recently, last month, a prominent Indian said this at Harvard University, and I thought it was very interesting. And particularly being at an HT Mint event today, I wanted to make note of how globalization has also touched the way we consume media and we consume the news. Now, I'm not going to talk about Donald Trump, not because of his love affair with the media, but more because, quite ironically, Donald Trump is almost, his presidency is reflected as a post-globalization era. But not so long ago, about a decade ago, the tragic news of Princess Diana was a mark in many ways of globalization. Now you may ask how? Think of it this way. An English princess with a Welsh title leaves a French hotel with an Egyptian companion, supplanted by a Pakistani. She enters a German car with a Dutch engine, driven by a Belgian chauffeur filled with Scottish whiskey. She's then followed by the Italian paparazzi on Japanese motorbikes and enters into a Swiss-built tunnel, ending up in a crash, a rescue attempt by an American doctor using Brazilian medicines, and this entire story is told to you by a Kolkata-born Indian entrepreneur from Mumbai at the outskirts of Delhi. And that is globalization. Globalization has infected all of us and touches our daily lives, including the content we consume. The recent Academy Award-winning film, Jungle Book, for example, is again an example of how a film was produced and directed by an American filmmaker based on a book by a British writer, constructed on the premise of Indian characters and acted out by actors from all over the world. And that's how content is becoming extremely global. And a mere reflection of this is how content can touch 1 billion eyeballs and engage the mind space of 1 billion people. Which brings me to my next point. From content to content. Now, content has been in demand, but is demand content? Now, I apologize for the pun, but let me explain. The demand for content has exploded, especially in the last few years. People always want more. And this demand has opened up a whole new landscape of distribution channels. Now, it's not surprising that technology platforms like your Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hulu and OTT plays are today perceived as media companies. Snapchat and Facebook, by the sheer volume of content that's shared on this platform, is now considered as a media major. There is a constant convergence of and collusion between technology and media, and not to forget that theatrical feature films and television continues to be one of the largest driving forces of quality and scalable content. But the question still remains, are we content? Are we satisfied with the quality of content? Are we satisfied with the relevance, with the power of the storytelling, with the quality of the production? And this unsatiated nature of the content keeps the demand evergreen. After all, humans are never content. So whilst content is king, as they say, distribution is now playing kingmaker, which brings me to the next point, that creativity is not linear. Whilst the demand for content has now been established, it's not just enough to create content for the volumes. Good content is very well differentiated from great content on the basis of the value it brings. Is it appealing? Is it relevant? Does it strike a chord? Does it ring a bell? Does it evoke emotions? And expectations of us consumers are constantly changing. The consumer now wants good quality, value-additive content. And this quality and complexity of content is ever so important that the non-linear nature of creativity plays a strong role to maintain the universal relevance of content itself. Creativity is and will be disruptive, and this is applicable across all human functions, be it in business, be it in trade, be it in media, be it in technology. It changes and challenges the status quo. The three thematics now bring me on to the convergence point of how animation plays the role of being a universal language. It plays the role of being a unique mode of expression to deliver global, scalable, valuable, highly engaging content. Animation has the power of being language agnostic, sector agnostic, geographically agnostic, and culturally agnostic. And being one of the most successful genres of filmed entertainment, animation is no kid's business. Well, not anymore at least. Animation is a perfect blend of art and science, powerful storytelling backed by compelling technology. Technology to produce animation content has come a long, long way since the early times of hand-drawn cartoons using the illusions of movement by the frame-by-frame manipulation of drawings and illustrations. Most animators today use computers to make three-dimensional images or CGI, computer graphics imagery. Pixar, together with Disney, set the tone of this in 1995 with the release of Toy Story, the first full-length CG animated feature. That opened up a whole new era for motion pictures. Now, CGI creates large amounts of data sets, which studios like ours need to build, and hence studios like ours need to build our own data centers, at least traditionally. Now, these data centers contain hundreds of powerful servers managing and processing huge amounts of data. Big or small, studios like ours work with large, complex, and intricate 3D models. Today, almost all the films that we shoot are 24 frames per second, which equates to 130,000 frames over a 90-minute film. Now, in animation, every frame has hundreds of assets, multiple layers. Every character has thousands of control points, so an entire film of 90 minutes can consist of up to 500 million digital files alone. Because of the quantum and magnitude of this data, studios often share some of their data processing with online data centers. Welcome to cloud computing. For example, a single film by Disney, say, uses as many as 10,000 simultaneous computing cores and 75 million hours of rendering, 250 terabytes of active disk space to store the film and deliver it to the servers and the artists. One movie is 500 million files, resulting in 250 billion pixels on screen. Now, for us at Assemblage, cloud computing reduces the need to build large data centers. And as you saw, the CEO of Google, Sundar Pichai, also applauded Assemblage for its mammoth effort of rendering its entire film, Norm of the North, using remote computing, remote rendering, and cloud platforms. This is something we're extremely proud of. In the future, the amount of data is going to, the data that we'll require to create, distribute, and receive animated films is going to grow enormously. Films are moving already from HD to Ultra HD, or 4K resolution, resulting in the multiplication of the amount of performance needed for rendering and storage. As these numbers rise, studios are now going to depend much more on faster processors and cloud computing. The onus is therefore on all you guys on technology to continue to supply the industry with cutting-edge solutions that will enable and drive the next wave of film and animation. Now, apart from understanding compute technology using high-end programs, softwares, graphic seed hardwares, animation studios like ours needs to be very familiar with concepts of physics, material sciences, anatomy, fluid dynamics, bone structures, etc., to give life to the, and give sense of realism to the characters in a world of fantasy. Someone earlier today spoke of Star Wars. Now, a lot of what we saw on celluloid back in the years is slowly coming into reality. Clearly, technology and entertainment have always inspired each other. One man's fantasy is another man's reality. And concluding, India is going to play a very pivotal role in this ecosystem, both creatively and technically. With a large and expansive skilled workforce going forward, largely English-speaking, I think India is poised to play a much larger role in the future of where animation and visual effects is going to be. Assemblage, in a very short span of time, is working with leading studios across the globe, creating content for international consumption. We're now working on our third full-length feature, and I've worked with DreamWorks, Lionsgate, Sony Pictures, and others on delivering content. To conclude, I'd say animation and visual effects have come a very long way. Being the confluence of creativity and technology, both infinite in its many domains, the future is going to be exciting, to say the least. Collaboration is going to be the way forward, and we're all extremely excited to be part of an endless world of possibilities. I thank you for your time, and I thank you for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Arjun.